Well, we're plugging this news into everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving them an ability to have an opinion on it, and they may be heard, and they may suddenly get popular because of their opinion on it, which is gamed in a way that it isn't allowing people to find truth. It's gamed in a way for taking a side.
Do you not think the podcasts are becoming a remedy to much of this? Because I do.
Depends on the podcast, but yes.
So I've heard you say it before, but like you seem to have like a bit of a like Tim Pool's kind of irked you a little bit. So what is it that you like or dislike about him?
So when I first discovered him, it was through his films. I saw him make some interesting films. I think he did one in Chernobyl. I think he visited Chernobyl.
He did, or not. I don't think it was Chernobyl. I think he did the Japanese reactor.
I thought he did Chernobyl.
He might have been. He might have done Chernobyl.
Look it up. He did another one in Sweden talking about the
rising crime.
Yeah, because of migration.
The no-go zones.
No-go zones. But I thought it was kind of interesting, but I also felt he was like someone with empathy. And I thought, okay, this is cool. This is interesting. And then, I think he made like 10 films. And then his YouTube channel became more of a daily opinion on what's going on. And I think he used to say he was a liberal. He was like a...
He still says that.
I think he said he's like... I can't remember what you said. But anyway, so then that happened. And then he started doing these daily clips. And I saw a shift to the right, but that's fine. I mean, I've had a shift to the right in times in my life, and some of the things he was concerned about was great. But then following his Twitter, I've just found him it's just like, I don't look at him as someone who says, here are some problems in society. I want to talk about this, and I want to talk to these people and bring them together, and here, let's find a solution. Let's see how we can work together. I see somebody who sees a crisis and just uses sarcasm and attack and criticism to appeal to an audience, and gets his likes, his cheers, his retweets, grows his show, yada, yada. And so I'm not a fan of that type of picking a side and attack people thing. By the way, everything I ever say I may have done hypocritically. I know that. But I'm really mostly interested in somebody who can go, okay, here's a problem. I want to try and find the truth. I want to try and find the answer. I want to help people get to a place where they understand what's going on and they can work together for a solution. And I feel like he's so far lost from that. I also think he just spouts a lot of fucking bullshit.
Well, I think it's he talks even about the Gell-Mann amnesia effect, where you like open up the newspaper and you're like, oh, like here's the thing I know a lot about. You read it and then you're like, oh my God, they're completely wrong about everything. And then you move to the next page and then you read about another complex thing and like you just accept it as truth because it's something you know nothing about. And I see that because like whenever he talks about crypto, it's just cringy. It's so cringy.
51% attack.
Oh, yeah. The discussion on 51% attacks, or when Doge was increasing, he had a whole thesis on how Doge was going to become real money and Bitcoin was going to be savings. And like that was just complete like doggy doo-doo. It was very obvious to anybody who's in the space that like his understanding of crypto is very minimal.
Did you find it?
Yeah, it was Fukushima.
It was Fukushima.
Oh, bam.
Okay, damn. But I knew he'd done one of them, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, these films are brilliant. Like they're really good independent films. And I was a big fan. And I see a different Tim Pool now, and I'm just not a fan. And that's fine. Like he can do his own thing, but I'm just not into that. Like I openly admit I'm a huge fan of Joe Rogan. Like I've clearly, with some of what artwork done, it's been inspired by him, because whether I agree with him or not, and I disagree, I believe that somebody's going out there, he's trying to help people find the truth, trying to help people question things. And it's very hard to pin him to subjects.
What I like about like a Tim Pool or a Rogan generally is the long form conversation.
Agreed.
And like there's, for example, in the United States, we have a couple of congressmen who are a little bit nuts, we think. Marjorie Taylor Greene is probably the most famous example. You know, I've never really heard her talk as a person for long periods of time. I only have like this understanding of her as like a person who's a crazy, who believes that like, you know, there's lasers from satellites put up there by the Jews who are burning down forests, right? That's as much as I like know about her. And Tim Pool had her on and did like a 3-hour conversation. And it was like the first time I'd ever heard her as a person. And I was like, oh, she's just your like friend's mom. She's just a little bit like uninformed, and she didn't know how Congress worked and then got elected and has kind of learned things, but she's like not crazy. She's just kind of like your friend's mom. like when you're growing up and your friend's mom had like weird opinions and you're like, oh, she's just kind of a normal person. Like I could see how like a person like that could like end up in Congress and be a little bit, and then not like know how to play the politics and then get accused of all of these things that she probably has also said and has kind of walked down some of the QAnon stuff. But like, she's not like malicious in any way and she's not dangerous. And like, that was something I got to see because of the long form conversation, regardless of like any of the political views that were, you know, espoused during that entire conversation. And that's the same thing with Rogan. I just like the long form conversation. It gives me an opportunity to sort of like get to know a person freely and measure how crazy they are. Because there's a lot of nutters out there. Like how long can you go without like being a nut? It's like, you can only hide it for so long.
I just want to say on the Tim Pool thing is like, I think he does a really great job a lot of the time. And I understand why a lot of people like his show. And it's just something I would want myself personally to avoid going down that route.
It's really hard.
Yeah,
it's so hard. I mean, it is absurd to me how, I mean, like I said earlier about the like going down conspiracies. I've noticed this about like the Russia-Ukraine thing has sort of alerted me to this in a way that is surprising, where I've watched people who have been sort of really good about not falling into conspiracy rabbit holes, falling into them on this issue. And I wonder now if they're stuck. Is that where they are? Or will the next issue be okay again?
I think people are stuck.
I think you're right. I think you get stuck now.
We fight really hard against that here. Like, this is why Danny's so important to the show. This is why he now has a microphone. This is why he travels with me. He's the real conscience of the show. Jeremy as well.
The Jiminy Cricket.
No, but they really are, because it is easy to get sucked into this. And it's not to say people aren't right or wrong, but it's really important to just try and, for every single thing, take a step back. Because I fall for it. Like I do. And I jump to answers and I jump to opinions. And sometimes I haven't really thought it through or spent the time on it. So
it's interesting because like I look back on my own sort of, and I try to figure out which conspiracies in the last few years I have either become passionate about or fallen for. I think the one that really got me was hydroxychloroquine. I think I fell for that one. I'll admit that.
How do you mean?
Well, I fully embraced the hydroxychloroquine train. Like this is working. Like it's very clearly working. There's clinical studies now, blah, blah, blah. And then as time went on, like you ended up with these meta studies and you took a look at it and it was like, oh, this really doesn't work. It's just kind of like, it works sometimes. It's effective sometimes, maybe. But like, honestly, it's just kind of like, there's better medicines. Like it's not really that great.
I think COVID has been just a huge challenge for everyone.
But I think I did a pretty good job of avoiding most of them. But that one was one that was interesting to me. And I've noticed that while I can admit that, and I can figure out which conspiracy I've fallen for, it seems like people get stuck. They really do get rutted into a specific path of thinking. And it's very difficult to like escape from that because it's almost like every path of thinking is a pathway into like a community.
Well, there's an inertia to admitting you were wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. People don't want to admit they're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think also because there's now this moral imperative to be right. So if you believed in hydroxychloroquine as an effective means to like curing COVID, you were evil for like 2 months. So people remember that. And if you admit that you're wrong, that means that you were evil for 2 months. You're kind of admitting that. And meanwhile, there's all sorts of conspiracies that the left fell into and the right fell into. That was the one that got me. Every other one pretty much been pretty good on during COVID, but that was the one that got me. And like everyone else that got seemed to fall down the rabbit hole of like vaccines are bad and, this is bad. And like, the government is lying and why are we doing, masks, whatever. Whatever your opinion is on masks. Like,
also, if you admit you're wrong, some people don't trust you in the future. Again, it's another thing we see. So when the lockdowns were first announced, I was like, yeah, totally support this. Very publicly. I said,
I did the same, actually. I was on the same side as you. I was like, it's 14 days. Yeah. Let's give it a try. I
totally support this. Like, lock us down. There are people collapsing in China and dying.
We don't know how bad this could be. The plague.
Yeah. Like, I support this. Yeah. I'm with it.
Black Death could be coming.
And a lot of people were like, this is bullshit. And I was like, no. And I fully supported it. Then, in hindsight, we've seen the studies. We know lockdowns are ineffective. And they also have these secondary effects, which are terrible for people: mental health, alcohol abuse, companies, etc. I've admitted I was wrong multiple times, but people have come back and said, well, you've been wrong on so many issues before. Why should we trust you now? And it's just kind of, well, hold on a second. Have you been right about everything your entire life? Have you had, not that you've had to, because I don't have to, but have you said your things in a public forum where 500,000 people are watching?
Is the difference between people that fall down conspiracy rabbit holes and people that don't the fact that they can admit they're wrong after the fact?
I think it's a factor. I certainly think it's a factor, because it's very difficult to come out and say you're wrong. Like, it really is hard.
It seems very easy. Like,
I find it easy, but for a lot of people,
I don't understand that. Like, I mean, like, this is like at the beginning of COVID. This was my debate with like people I knew. I was like, look, this is early on, before they said anything about masks. I went and bought a bunch of masks, and I was like, okay, we're gonna, to my wife, we're gonna go to the store. We're going to wear our masks. This is before anybody else is doing it, and the pushback I get is, well, no one else is doing it. They're gonna look at us, right? And a few months later, everyone's wearing masks, and it's pure capitulation. It's like, oh yeah, absolutely, we'll wear a mask. And again, regardless of what you think of masks, like early on, this was the most conservative way that you could go with regard to like a pandemic. Like, okay, do everything is, stay away from people. We're going to go in there quick. We're going to get out, all of that. And like, I just noticed that there was this like sort of need for like affirmation from the crowd before you did anything at all, especially if it looked weird. And that to me is very interesting that like, it took months and there was never this admission like, oh, I was wrong about the mask thing. It's just kind of like a go along to get along with the crowd. And like, once the crowd says the masks are okay, then we can wear masks. If the crowd doesn't say that the masks are okay, then we don't wear masks because people will make fun of us. It's very weird.